The Heartlands is a vibrant region, known for its verdant rolling hills and rocky outcrops. This is a land full of life, and that makes it especially good farming territory, a region where one might raise livestock, growing wealth from the wealth of the land. But agriculture is a brutal business. The back-breaking work requires a strong body, and also a strong mind. It attracts those that are fierce and intense, but sometimes cutthroat. Welcome everybody to our latest Red Dead Redemption revisit, and today we're going to be revisiting one of this game's more popular mysteries, one I did in fact do a video on years ago, but it wasn't as thorough and complete as it could have been, not to mention of unsatisfying quality. So in a bid to remedy that, we must return to Emerald Ranch. Before we make our way to the epicenter of this mystery, we must first satisfy the introduction to the fact that there is something wrong with Emerald Ranch. And that comes in the form of a random encounter Arthur Morgan can have while out gallivanting from Chapter 2 onwards.
Hey, mister. Don't look like you're doing that right.
You can do what you like. I'm not going to pay you any more.
Okay, that was just a man getting kicked in the head. But it is while out riding that we may encounter a woman facing some rather unfortunate equestrian troubles, as her horse appears to have dropped dead.
Oh, hey, you there! Think you could help a lady out? My horse up and died on me, twisted my ankle something fierce. Think you could give me a ride?
Yeah, sure. Hop on.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you.
It's during this ride to the ranch, her place of residence, that we learn there's something fishy afoot at the farm.
You live at Emerald Ranch, then?
For the time being. I was looking for work. They was looking for some help with the gardens. If I waited any longer for my husband to put food on the table, I'd have died of starvation. I'll be moving on soon, though. Emerald Ranch, well, it's a strange place.
How so?
The owner's a mean bastard. Strange, too. Delights in bullying folk. There's a daughter, but she never leaves the house. You can see her in the window sometimes. When I asked about her, everybody told me to leave it alone. Found an old saloon there, all shut down now, but I went in to have a look, and there's bullet holes, old blood stains. Something definitely happened there, but I couldn't figure it. Just an uncomfortable feeling to the place. Either way, it's time I left, especially now I lost that poor horse. I'll collect my belongings and be on my way.
It sounds like Emerald Ranch is an awfully interesting place. Anyhow, we arrive at the farmstead armed with the knowledge that something uncouth is going on. We part with our new friend as she, no doubt, is off to pack her things before returning home to her lazy husband, leaving us to now explore the oddities of this place. At first, it may seem like quite a pleasant place. The property boasts a roomy farmhouse. It boasts a stables, a barn, a modest chicken coop and various paddocks to house different animals. And as suggested by the numerous employees, this ranch appears to be quite successful. Perhaps not in its prime as suggested by the closed down saloon and disused general store across the dirt road. Most interestingly, the ranch has a rail connection complete with a station, somewhere you can go and get pounded at dominoes if you truly get bored of having fun. All things considered, Emerald Ranch has the appearance of a mighty fine steading, and you'd be forgiven for believing nothing could possibly be wrong here. Beautiful scenery and that pulsing feeling in your feet after a hard day's toil. It doesn't exactly sound like a bad life. However, we've been warned the owner is a horrible bully, and it's presumably him we can find on the farmhouse's front porch in the evenings, standing or sitting before a barricaded from the outside front door. It's a bit of an odd practice to put clutter in front of a door, but that's besides the point. Let's go and say hello to the fella. He can't be that bad, can he?
Hi there, kitty. Hey, partner.
Goddamn jackass.
All right, simmer down. Keep up the hard work.
Who the hell do you think you're talking to?
He seems offended by the very thought of our presence, arguably not a firm indicator he's a pleasant man. No matter what you do, he will be hostile. First verbally, but if you don't remove yourself from his garden, physically. So best leave him alone for now, as we've more to investigate. Now, during a visit here in Chapter 2 of the main story, Arthur Morgan will meet up with the old reliable Hosea Matthews here at Emerald Ranch in hopes of winning over a local fence named Seamus. Seamus is naturally slow to trust, as is the underhanded nature of being a fence. But to win his favour, he sends us on a trust-building exercise to rob his cousins.
By marriage?
On the ride over, we can ask Hosea about Emerald Ranch, to which he will corroborate the story of the lady we spoke with before.
So what's the story with that Emerald Ranch? You find out anything else?
A little. Owner's a nasty type by all accounts. Seamus is sure scared of him.
That's not saying much.
Something strange about the place. Used to be a saloon there, general store. Now it's all closed up, but they seem to have money.
Sounds worth a look around.
For sure. Seamus also mentioned the rancher's daughter a couple of times. How he used to see her around all the time, but now she never leaves the house. Probably just sweet on her.
That what you call finding out a little?
Once he opens up, seems Seamus does like to talk.
Obviously, again we hear about the owner's daughter, who seems to never leave the house. And sure enough, at certain times she can be seen from the upstairs window of the farmhouse, simply gazing out at the world she appears removed from. For me, the game's sort of bugged. I couldn't get her to spawn either on PC or PlayStation. The lights just came on at midnight and midday for no discernible reason, before, of course, eventually going out. Now, this is a thing that's been brought up by two characters. She seems to never leave that house. What's the crack with this? Is this some self-imposed exile from the outside world? Or is her incredibly limited life the will of another? After all, her father is a nasty piece of work. And if you recall what the one we kindly gave a ride to earlier had to say.
She never leaves the house. You can see her in the windows sometimes. When I asked about her, everybody told me to leave it alone.
So whatever the reasoning for her isolation, the inhabitants of the farm know, and they're not so willing to tell about it. Perhaps it's simply not their place to tell about it, but somebody would blabber if it was an open secret. Or perhaps the reason why nobody speaks about it is out of fear of the boss. Either way, it doesn't take much exploration of the ranch to learn that his rotten attitude has impacted many of his employees, who also might simply be verbally hostile by default. Perhaps then they all fear the truth getting out. Or maybe it's just a farm of pillocks as implied by a lost dog encounter that can be found here, in which a young fella appears to be looking for his dog who's run off.
Hey, fella, you seen a dog around? She went and got herself lost. Poor thing's been gone for hours. Any chance you could help me find her, please?
At first it seems like a reasonable request. The lad comes across as concerned for his lost friend. As for finding the dog, that's fairly easy. She can be found hiding under the abandoned saloon.
Oh, there you are. Follow me, girl. Come on.
But it's upon returning her to her owner that the man's demeanour quickly shifts.
Come on, you dumb dog. Hear me? You don't get here right now, I swear I'll stomp on your paws. Hey, where are you going? Get back here, damn it! You get back here! Don't make me chase you!
Dog don't like you much, huh?
Just leave me alone, old man. You want dinner tonight? You get back here right now!
The dog's made off again as it becomes apparent to us that perhaps this owner is not the friendliest of people. Rather, he used the guise of a concerned dog owner to get us to find the dog, but upon being reunited with the poor thing, the ruse dropped. He was no longer so much as grateful for our help, and revealed a personality much crueler than initially expected. Was he that kind of character by default, or did something about this place make him miserable? Perhaps it's harsh conditions for the workers, perhaps it's another byproduct of the owner being a cowardly bully that we know him to be. But what's the reasoning for him being a bully? As Hosea puts it, the place appears to be past its prime but isn't strapped for cash. We'll have to explore the suspicious closed down general store and saloon in a minute. After all, that is where things get incredibly juicy. But first, let's pay some mind to identifying where the cash flow is coming from. Perhaps a newspaper article will provide us with the answers we seek. If we head to Valentine and purchase the new Hanover Gazette number 30, we'll be able to read an article titled New Hanover Farms Failing that reads as follows. Small farms across New Hanover are experiencing tightening prices and profits as large farming operations flood the market. A bushel of corn sells for a pittance, and many farmers say it's simply too expensive to continue. Operations like Emerald Ranch are cited as an example of what's bringing the area to ruin. As smaller farms fail, Emerald Ranch acquires them, further crowding out other farmers. The saloon and local store have closed, worsening the economic outlook further. The proprietor of Emerald Ranch, Eugene Wegner, is mired in controversy about his tactics and a local scandal involving his daughter Miriam, who is rarely seen anymore. This article gives our proprietor a name, Eugene Wegner. It also names his daughter, Miriam, presumably also Wegner, and reveals that Emerald Ranch is the heart of a farming empire, one that Eugene Wegner has grown through questionable tactics. What those tactics are is unclear, but we know Wegner has the demeanour of a heartless bully. So the implication is he'll do whatever, stoop to any level just to grow his business. Cheating others out of their property perhaps? Maybe even preying on vulnerable moments. His chief priority is implied to be greed, not ethics. And maybe that's why at various other farms in the region, our presence logs a very similar defensive response. Among other reasons perhaps, they see Arthur Morgan riding towards their farm, and they assume the worst, that we've perhaps been sent by Wegner to try and acquire the farm on his behalf. Considering we bear the appearance of an outlaw, a thug, such a rational response would suggest that Wegner is in league with some rather unsavoury people. Perhaps he has no problem using hired muscle to gain the upper hand. But if that were the case, why isn't the ranch guarded like a small fortress? The only thing I can think of is Eugene Wegner would not want to draw attention to himself, and that would track with his defensive attitude upon seeing us, a complete stranger, poking our noses around the ranch. What is there to find that he doesn't want us to see? Perhaps it's time we checked out the abandoned saloon. After all, our horse ride earlier suggested something bloody happened there. And sure enough, we can access the disused watering hole, and everything seems to have just been left behind to gather dust, and no shortage of cobwebs, suggesting its only regulars these days are spiders. In the bar's back wall we can find a neatly clustered trio of bullet holes, and on the floor before it some dark bloodstains. The implication to me is clear: somebody was shot here. And there are no indicators in the opposing wall or window that would suggest there was any return fire. As for who this person was, we find out, for there is a grave between the saloon and the workers' quarters. The grave of Joshua Burgess, who was accidentally shot in August of 1898. Yeah, accidentally repeatedly. As you can tell, I have little doubt that Joshua Burgess was the one shot in the saloon. However, I highly doubt it was an accident. There are 3 bullet holes in the wall suggesting the gun was discharged 3 times, and considering all 3 shots hit vaguely the same place, this would suggest the shots were intentionally placed. There's no accident here. Joshua was gunned down with intent. This was no misadventure, it was murder. The question, of course, is who was Joshua, why was he killed, and who could have pulled it off? Well, since his final resting place sits apart from the other graves here at Emerald Ranch, we know at the very least he wasn't just another hand. In fact, there's evidence that would suggest he has something to do with Miriam Wegner. If we leave the farmstead behind for a minute and head for this spot not far from Fort Wallace, we can find an abandoned US mail wagon at the roadside, within which there's a lockbox filled with various letters, one of which is a letter addressed to Miriam Wegner, and here's what it says. My dearest Miriam, I decided that I would write to you again because, even though our worlds seem so far apart these days, I think of you often. New York is crowded and dirty, but so alive. It feels like anything is possible, even for a country girl like me. And my biggest news is that I have been cast in a Henrik Ibsen play. It is a small role, but I can finally call myself a Broadway actress. Sometimes I do miss home though. The peace and the clean air, being able to take a ride at first light. I received a letter from Lily Millett a while back, and it appears that she is experiencing some financial difficulties. She was always very sensible with money, so I am worried that Weasel Cooper has his claws in her again. She also mentioned that she has not seen you leave the house in months. I cannot even begin to imagine how painful it must have been for you to lose Joshua in such a horrible way, and I would never assume to instruct you how to grieve, but I worry about you existing in such isolation. This must be the 6th letter I have sent to you with no response. Please, let me know that you are all right, even if it is just the shortest of notes to tell me to mind my own business. You can tell me anything. Your loving cousin, Annabelle. P.S. Uncle Eugene, with the greatest of respect. If you are withholding my mail from Miriam, or, dare I say, constraining her in any other way, I beg you to reconsider your actions. I know how much you love her, but please do not confuse love with possession. She is a beautiful, intelligent woman with so much life ahead of her. This letter suggests Joshua Burgess was special to Miriam Wegner, the implication being a lover. It also identifies Joshua's demise that we've already gone over was likely a murder, as a possible start point for Miriam's isolation, before planting the seed of suggestion that this exile from the outside world may not be of her choosing, and she is in fact a prisoner of Eugene Wegner, forbidden from leaving, from being free. But why would he constrain his daughter, his blood, so cruelly? Unless, of course, she's a loose end he can't bring himself to be rid of. So what we know is Miriam's lover Joshua was killed, presumably by Eugene Wegner. Let's run with that theory for a minute, and now she's confined to the house. Perhaps Eugene did not approve of Miriam's suitor and took drastic action, but I have a feeling there's more to the story than that. However, there is a campfire conversation to be had that would suggest Eugene's actions to be the result of an obsession.
Say you know Emerald Ranch? I picked up some labor there for a couple weeks. If I need a reminder why I live the way I do, that was it. The boss there's the worst kind of bastard. Treats everyone worse than the dirt they work on. Don't care so long as he's getting richer. Yeah, you know the kind I mean. I ain't answering to any man. Least of all a man like that. Strangest thing was I'd see this girl in the house sometimes, but she never came outside. One of the workers told me the rancher was kind of obsessed with his daughter. Rumor was he killed a fellow there who fell in love with her and kept her locked up for now. Don't know what's true or not, only that nobody there seemed very happy. Now, this is the life for me.
So, rumour has it, Eugene Wegner had an improper obsession with his own daughter, murdered Joshua for getting in the way and locked Miriam inside the house, never to enjoy the outside world again. We know from the fact that Annabelle has sent 6 letters to Miriam to no response, that Eugene is personally ensuring Miriam has no contact with the outside world. Perhaps because Miriam knows the truth and she'd tell the first person she could. It encapsulates most aspects of the whole sordid affair, but to me it's missing a bit. You see, if the letters are any indication, Miriam and Joshua's relationship was not a fleeting thing, it was serious. Established even. And Eugene is clearly obsessed with control. Were his problem the relationship itself, he'd have found a means to be rid of it sooner. And thanks to the newspaper article we explored earlier, we know Mr. Wegner is mired in controversy surrounding his tactics regarding how he acquires other, smaller farms in a bid to bring New Hanover's small farming industry to ruin for his own personal gain. It's possible he's obsessed over multiple things, but it seems his primary obsession is getting richer, not necessarily his own daughter. And then there's the fact that he's feared by his own workforce. He's a notorious bully, but it goes beyond that. They don't seem so afraid of unpredictability as a crime of passion certainly is, but rather the opposite, how calculated and nurtured his twisted nature truly is. Many of the farmhands can be observed to have assumed the basics of his miserable characteristics. The path of least resistance at Emerald Ranch is to become like him, even if only a bit. That doesn't strike me as a reputation born through a pathetic obsession. It comes across more as ruthlessness. Eugene Wegner works his employees into the ground with an iron fist. Maybe an obsession with his own daughter factored, perhaps more so a general obsession with control that he clearly has. After all, there is evidence pointing towards him being quite a possessive character. But this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment killing. He mitigated witnesses and managed to make it seem like an accident, even if played up for our sake it quite obviously isn't. I think therefore his killing of Joshua Burgess was about more than simply ensuring his daughter doesn't leave him. Perhaps Joshua and Miriam knew something that Eugene didn't want getting out, so he killed Joshua and confined Miriam to the house. Or maybe, as indicated by the fact that Joshua was in a relationship with Miriam Wegner, Joshua didn't fear Eugene like everyone else seems to, and that is just something that Eugene could not stand. Either way, he posed a serious threat to undermining the Emerald Ranch empire, either the fact it was built on fear, or the fact that Eugene Wegner's greed took him to some incredibly dark places. This would make the main reason behind Miriam's confinement not the fact that her own father, this cold, unloving man, couldn't bear to lose her, but instead because she knows the truth, that Eugene Wegner is a murderer, and dispatching his own blood is the one thing he cannot stomach. This would explain why she's denied contact beyond her jailer, why she cannot provide a response to Annabelle's letters, and even why there are rumours of that being its own separate scandal from Eugene Wegner's underhanded business dealings, because nobody beyond that house, aside from the man himself, is privy to the whole hideous truth. And that brings us to the conclusion of this video. The game heavily implies, if not outright states, that Eugene Wegner is the one who killed Joshua Burgess, and that is Emerald Ranch's dark secret. Why is where it starts to get a bit muckier. With rumours circulating, the old ruthless farmer was obsessed with his daughter, but that didn't quite encompass the whole picture of what the game is trying to tell us about Emerald Ranch. About the kind of man Eugene Wegner is, and how he inspires fear in his employees by how corrupted he's become by his own avarice. There are plenty of other aspects to this location that still need answers. The saloon was closed because it was the site of a murder. Why was the general store closed? Unlike the saloon, we cannot access the general store to find out. Could it have been the site of another murder? Or considering it's where we confront one of Strauss's debtors, Lily Millet, could it have just been run out of business by her? Another thing is, what is the actual true extent of Eugene Wegner's ruthlessness? How far does he go to acquire farms? It's not a question we get an encompassing answer to, but the game implies he's willing to get quite vicious in his pursuit of wealth. But as for the core mystery, I believe what we know so far to be as good an answer as we're likely to get. So that leaves us with one final task.
You ain't tough, my friend.
Fine, let's go!
Let's see.
I'd like to thank you all for watching today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, share the channel with your friends, all that wonderful stuff. It would be massively appreciated. Be sure to let me know your thoughts on this mystery down in the comments section, and maybe bang me a follow on some social media if you're into that stuff, but that's all entirely up to you. But look, with any luck, I'll be seeing you all very soon with another video at some point. If you'd like to see more revisits or perhaps even topics I may not have covered yet, let me know. But until next time, please take care of yourselves. Goodbye.